Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 39. In this episode, I talk with Liz Wilcox. Liz is a simple launch strategist. We talk about feeling stupid, how she started an RV blog and traveled around the United States, and later she was able to sell that blog, and giving compliments to others. What I love about Liz is her total badass confidence. Stay tuned because you won't want to miss this episode. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I'm glad you're here. We're all striving to be confident, bold, and authentic so we can live a life that we're passionate about. Today's guest is Liz Wilcox. Liz, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel like I finally made it. I'm on the podcast. This is awesome.
Oh, yeah. So first off, before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
I'm a badass.
Yes. I love how you just owned it. Tell me about that.
Yeah. I really resonate with just even the title of this podcast, Ordinary to Badass. I mean, we're all I'm sure I'll bring this up again, but we're all born equal, right? And we're all, there's probably like 7 billion people on the planet. We can't all be badass, but then again, we all can go on that journey to become badasses should we choose. And I choose to be badass, therefore I am.
What's something that you've done that has made you feel badass?
The latest thing I did was I sold my blog. I built it for 3.5 years, and I was talking about selling my site for probably, the last 1.5 years, and I finally did it. I feel so badass that I created something. That someone saw value in, and someone gave me like straight cash for it. It was crazy. It was totally badass. Awesome. Yeah, and now I feel like, I'm a real entrepreneur. You always see those, like, pardon me, but like those old white guys on stage that are like, oh, I sold my first business when I was 25 and whatever. And now I can picture myself, like on the stage as this total like badass commanding attention saying, when I had just turned 32 and I sold my business in the same week. Like, it just feels really good.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Did you ever picture yourself being an entrepreneur?
No, I did not picture myself as an entrepreneur at all. I grew up in, I don't know. I guess I grew up as a really poor kid. I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur meant when I started my blog, like in my mid-20s. But yeah, I just saw myself always as an employee. But now that I look back, it seems kind of silly because I went to college and then I decided I didn't want to get a job because I was too afraid. I was so like scared of being rejected, right? I wanted to be a teacher. So I just went and I said, oh, well, I'll just keep going to school then. And I went and got my master's degree, and still at that time I had my child, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get a job when I have a baby. And I just never had that background. My mom worked she worked in the bakery of a place called Meyer, which is like a Walmart in Michigan. And, she always worked for minimum wage, barely anything more. And once I got into entrepreneurship, I I literally said to one of my friends, I was like, why didn't anyone ever tell me about running your own business? Like, why was everyone, because a lot of people used to tell me, oh, Liz, you can be anything you want to be. Like, I was always this weird kind of creative kid, but no one once mentioned to me, like, you should start your own business or you could make a business out of that. Like, not one time. Everyone just always said, oh, you can be anything. You could go to college and ace anything. So I feel like, the adults in my life kind of did me a disservice.
So what would you say to somebody who has never thought of entrepreneurship or hasn't even had anybody tell them about it?
Well, I mean, I'm under the camp that anyone really can be an entrepreneur. I know how we met was through Jeff Goins, and he wrote a book, Real Artists Don't Starve, and it was about how to thrive as a creative in this digital age. And I really believe, like, if you have any sort of skill, you can monetize it nowadays. I mean, should you? That's up to you. That's a personal choice. Some people are great mothers and they want to be mothers, and I honor that and I celebrate that decision. And some people want to go out and, if they like crocheting, maybe they want to sell their crochet patterns. And, if you're thinking of going that route, I say just go for it. Of course, that's easier said than done, but there's definitely a market for just about anything out there right now.
Awesome. I want to get back into that a little bit more, but first, will you share an intro or a short bio with the audience about yourself?
Oh yeah, let's introduce me.
Yeah.
All right, before I get into the good stuff. So yeah, my name's Liz Wilcox. As you already know, I'm a simple launch strategist, and what that really means is I just teach people how to use their email lists to create digital products people will actually buy. So like I mentioned earlier, I used to have a blog. I had an RV blog. I used to travel the country with my daughter and my husband. But what I realized is that I really just loved connecting with people, kind of like we're connecting right now. And the best way to do that was through email, just emailing people, getting to know them. While traveling around, I think I met over 100 people through my email list, and I was able to learn how to create products, like I was just saying, that they wanted. And so now I realized that was my favorite part about blogging. And so I sold the blog, and now I do that exclusively.
So when you first started your blog, did you know how to blog or all things tech? How did the blog come about?
Oh my gosh, I knew nothing. I just knew that I had this wild idea in my head that I wanted to travel the country in an RV. And my husband was in the military, so obviously he would have to quit if I wanted this dream to be a reality. So I started a blog. I saw people online making money. You always see those blog posts.
Yeah.
I made, $1 million in 2 years or whatever. And I said, oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And so I started my blog. I think the difference between me and a lot of bloggers is that I did start it as a business. It wasn't a hobby. I started an RV blog before I even started RVing. And so I feel that, contributed to my success a lot. But no, I didn't know anything other than how to Google. And like I tell people all the time, like I'm just a lady with a Mountain Dew and a dream, and I'm just going for it.
Okay, so something you said really caught my interest. You said you started the RV blog before you ever started RVing. Was that intimidating if you hadn't been RVing yet?
I tend to just go out and do things. And that's probably one of the reasons why you invited me on here is I just have a lot of I call it like dumb confidence. Like I just go out and I don't overthink things. I don't, I'm not a pros cons checklist kind of gal. If I have an idea, I just go for it. Now, I will say we did own an RV and we had just moved into the RV. We had never traveled though. And so that was a little intimidating in that it was, how do I get people to read my blog as an RVer when I'm not moving around? You see travel blogs, you follow travel hashtags on Instagram, things like that. You see all these beautiful places, you hear all these wonderful stories. I had no view no real story. But what I did have was just, again, like I said, that confidence and that dream to just keep me going. And I was able to carve my own little niche.
And I imagine that it couldn't have been easy doing a blog, doing all things tech once you did start moving on the road. How did you go about that?
Oh man, that was probably one of the roughest points in my life. I know you had sent over a couple questions to me before the interview, and one of them was, what are you most proud of? And I wrote the answer down, and it was that I've been working in this online space for almost 4 years, and I haven't given up.
Yeah.
And when we were traveling, it was very hard. My business was growing, but it wasn't making the money that I wanted it to make. It wasn't making the money that I thought it would be making, and that caused a lot of tension within. Of course, I'm trying to be a professional. I'm trying to, build products, reach deadlines, meet with people online the way we're meeting right now. And it was very stressful, but it was also very stressful on my husband. When we got married, it was kind of thought or agreed upon that I was going to stay at home. I had this master's degree in education. One day I was going to be a teacher. When our daughter got old enough, probably about around this time would be when I was going to start applying, which is hilarious to me now. I would never do that. But, it was that I was going to stay at home for the first 5 years of our daughter's life. And I got pregnant right away, and we were on that path. And I realized, about 3 months into pregnancy, I realized, wait, no, I actually like having my own life. And, the idea of being a stay-at-home mom is really scary. And, so we almost got a divorce while we were on the road because it was so hard. It was hard because of the tech. I'm trying to build a business on the road with limited Wi-Fi. I created my very first product off campground Wi-Fi, which if you've ever been in the forest, you can assume that that's terrible.
Right.
In Canva, free, like literally just living off Mountain Dew in a dream. Like I had nothing else, I had no other hope except for my own. And it caused a lot of tension. And, on top of the tech, just the expectations. And, on top of that, travel planning, navigating parenthood, navigating, being husband and wife. It was really, really hard. And for years, I didn't know if we were going to come out on the other side. But luckily, I was able to center myself, I guess, find a balance so I could live a happier life and, not have to make that decision between business owner and mother and wife, because I love being my husband's wife. Obviously, I married him, right? But I love being a business owner too. It gives me a lot of purpose in my life. And so I'm just glad I was, able to come out on the other side of that. And that's what I'm most proud of.
So during that time where there was a lot of turmoil, what do you wish you knew, or what would have helped you during that time? Or is there anything?
Oh my gosh. Well, if you can't tell from this interview already, I tend to have a pretty big ego. I'm an Enneagram 3. I'm very motivated by performing, what people think of me. And the blog really did feed that part of me a lot. People said, oh, I love this. I love that. It makes me feel good. And I wish that I would have taken my husband's concerns or taken his feelings into consideration. I am the type of person, I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel when I feel it. Tactfully, of course. I'm an adult now, but I say that. I don't know. Ed's not in the room to confirm or deny. Right. But I'm the type of person, I say what I mean. If I'm not feeling good about something, I'll say it. I try to listen to my intuition and, make decisions from that. But my husband, I didn't realize, isn't like that. He wasn't on the same page. He was bottling things up. He was much more stressed about leaving his military career than I even knew or that I was paying attention to. So I was, I was very selfish in those first few years of building my business. And of course, you have to be selfish when it comes to building a business or even taking care of yourself. Like, to be selfish isn't necessarily a negative thing. But
Right.
I wish that I would have also taken into consideration his feelings and like him just as a person. And I probably could have avoided a lot,
Yeah.
a lot of tension.
So what is something that most people don't know about what it took to accomplish everything that you went through between the starting your blog and then balancing like being a wife and mom life?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think most people, I guess, most people don't know that I almost got a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
But to get out of that, um, it just took a lot. Most people don't know how much self-care and self-love it takes to get out of a position like that. I could have beat myself up about it. I could have said, "Oh, I'm a terrible person. I have mom guilt because I'm not taking care of my daughter, and there's only one of her, and she doesn't even have a sibling, and we're out here in the middle of woods because this is my dream." I could have gone down all those like nasty rabbit holes, and of course,
Mm-hmm.
for a little bit I did, but luckily, I've done a lot of mindset work where I knew like that's not going to help. That's not going to get my marriage growing, and it's definitely not going to get my business growing if I wallow in all of the bad decision making I've just done. And so, if you find yourself in that predicament, or you find like you're in such an imbalance, and yeah, maybe you are the cause of it, like it doesn't do any good to continuously beat yourself up over it. Like acknowledge it, accept it, and learn how to move on and how to grow from it.
So you said that you learned how to do a lot of self-care. Do you have a tip for somebody to what they can do to practice self-care for themselves when they're in a hard time?
Yeah, so first I would do want to thank my mother. Like I have to always preface this. When I was a girl, I think I've already brought this up. My mom used to tell me, "Oh, you can do anything." It was
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. Like I played the flute. She was like, "Oh, you're going to be a professional flautist one day." I wrote a funny joke. "Oh, you could be a sketch comedy writer when you grow up." Like whatever it was I was interested in, she thought I was the best. And so I do want to like preface that, my mindset to begin with is strong because I feel like it comes from like a privileged subconscious. Like you're those things that anyone says to you as a child, they go deep and they run deep in your subconscious. So I've been lucky, although she didn't tell me I should be a business owner, and I'm kind of burned by that. I do feel blessed in that way that I just naturally know to take care of myself because, my mom loved me in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say that, you can't have this too. If your childhood and your current circumstances aren't that way. So I would just say, when you're in those moments of darkness or you feel imbalanced, or even we're recording this and it's a pandemic and I don't know your struggle. But something Tony Robbins said that I heard a long time ago, he said something like, if you don't have 5 minutes to yourself, if you can't take 5 minutes to yourself truly out of the day, then you need to reevaluate your life. And anytime I think things like, "Oh, well, I don't have time for that right now," and I'm just scrolling on my phone or something like that, I think of that quote, and that immediately helps me like center myself and really like get into my body. So some quick tips on that is, number one, just take 5 minutes a day. If it is true that you do not have 5 minutes, then I think you need to reevaluate that because you probably do. and you're probably using that as an excuse. So what I do, you can't see me right now, but start like squeezing your shoulders, maybe squeeze your neck, your belly all the way down, and where you squeeze each toe, and that just helps you get back into your body. And because we spend so much time in our minds, right?
Right.
There's so many thoughts going on. I don't know how many thoughts it is a day. It's something like, what is it, like 75,000 thoughts a day. That's a lot. You
That's
need to
crazy,
get back into it's wild. Get back into your body, like squeeze your shoulders, your neck, your rib cage, your hips, your butt, like all of that. And it just, spend 1 minute, and some emotions might come up for you. I learned this from a detox healer. She said, when you do that type of thing, emotions may come up, and that's okay. And you just have to, say it's okay to yourself when you spend those 5 minutes a day, reconnecting. And so, yeah, that's my number one tip is just, like squeeze your body, get into yourself. Also, something that I do it pretty extremely. You don't have to do it this way, but I follow a really low information diet. And what that means is, just what it is, low info. I don't consume a lot of media. I don't consume a lot of content. I don't have social media apps on my phone. Well, I think I have Instagram now on my phone because I just started this new business, and you got to be on Instagram, right? But before I had my business, I didn't even have any. I didn't even have Facebook before I started my blog, and that just really helps guard you. It's a form of self-care in that you're not constantly, if your kids are there and they want something, and it's annoying you or something, and you're distracting yourself with your phone, like just take that distraction away and make that connection with your child, and you'll probably start to feel better anyway. And so I just, I really recommend unfollowing people on Facebook that every time you see them, it makes you feel bad about yourself. Unfollow. I have Facebook now. I think I have 2,000 friends. I don't follow one person on Facebook. Anytime, no offense if you friend me, I will follow you for 1 week, and after 7 days, I unfollow you. And I follow you for 1 week just so I can get to know you. A lot of people add me on Facebook. You can add me on Facebook as well. But just know after 7 days, I will unfollow you. And, that friendship can continue through email or through, Messenger or something like that. But I don't need to see every single thing you believe is important, just like you don't need to see everything your friends on Facebook believe is important, because I guarantee it's damaging you.
Yeah. And I think that's part of, like you said, like guarding yourself, because it's so easy to start comparing yourself to everybody that you see when all you're seeing is like the picture perfect image of them, not real life.
Yes. And I know I am so guilty of this. If you go to my Facebook, you might be like, whoa, this lady really is a badass. But I'm not sharing how, 2 years ago I was in a forest and my husband drove away and I wasn't sure if he was coming back. And
Right.
I don't know how to drive the RV. I don't share those things. I share, wow, I was just on the Ordinary to Badass podcast, or, I just sold my business. I'm sharing those things. And of course, those are badass moments, but that doesn't mean that I don't have ordinary or even like terrible moments in my life.
Right. And I mean, I think that there's a balance there too, because do you need to share something terrible necessarily right as you're going through it? Like I don't want to appear perfect or like my life is perfect. But like, as I'm going through something, I don't know that that's even the perfect time to share,
Right. We all have that friend. We all know, Susie from 5th grade that is like, oh my gosh, my boyfriend just, cheated on me, or my kid just threw up and then I, drank a whole bottle of wine and threw up with them, or whatever, yeah.
And then it's like, that does nobody any good.
There's definitely a time or place. And that's going to make you feel bad in a different way, right? Like,
right.
I wish I could help my friend. But then it's like, what do I do? And then you feel bad, but there's nothing you can do for, that type of person. But anyway, that's another story.
Let's pivot and talk a little bit about your struggles. Tell us about a time when you gave up, but now you wish you wouldn't have.
Oh, good. I love talking about my struggles.
Don't we
Sure.
all?
Honestly, this is hard. Lately, I don't have many stories of myself giving up. I will say I did just sell my blog and now it's doing really well. And I'm like, maybe I should have kept that. But that's just a test. I believe that is a test,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yep.
To know if I made the right decision. Okay, so I'm just going to kick it old school here and talk about myself when I was a young girl, because I used to give up a lot. I was an overachiever and I always bit off way more than I could chew, which caused me to always quit.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought of myself as a quitter. And so I would say in high school, I joined cross country. I joined this program called Odyssey of the Mind, which is an amazing creative problem solution for 5th grade through 12th grade. If you have those kinds of kids, look it up. Anyway, I was on student council, National Honor Society, anything I could do, I was doing it. And I would always just quit. I would quit cross country. I would drop out of like anything that you actually could drop out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just made me feel really bad about myself. It was a challenging time in my life. My mom, I say she was supportive, but we also grew up really poor, and she had to like drive, I think something like 70 or 80 miles a day to work.
Holy smokes.
And so she didn't want me in those things. And so I was quitting. And I just wish I would have stuck with it. And I wish I would have known, I wish I would have had the confidence to figure out creative solutions to stay in the programs. But also I wish I didn't have the pressure. I wish I didn't have the pressure of feeling like I had to do everything to prove myself.
Do you know when the turning point was where you stopped feeling like a quitter?
Yeah. So everything really changed. Like I talked about earlier, being an anxious kid, and everything really changed for me when I was in the 10th grade and I was in a health class. And for whatever reason, I was actually paying attention. And the teacher, her name is Mrs. Rice, I'll never forget her. She said something like, happiness is a choice. And I don't know what the heck we were talking about in that health class, but she said that. And I just poked my head up and immediately I refuted it. Immediately in my head, I was thinking, no, it's not. If you have X, Y, and Z, that is what makes you happy. I do not have those things. Therefore, I am unhappy, right?
Uh-huh.
I am sad and pissed and whatever. And, then, I took a breath and I thought, what would life look like if that was true? And I looked around me, and my mother was always a very angry person. She had to work 2 to 3 jobs. Her husband was a bum. We lived in this 1-bedroom trailer with 5 people in the swamp, and it was just bad circumstances. And I just started thinking, what if happiness is a choice? And that day changed my life. And ever since that was when I was, I just turned 16 years old. I'm now 32. So that was, half a lifetime ago for me. And, ever since that point, I have been choosing myself, and I have been forgiving myself for quitting those, for realizing that, the reason I quit wasn't because I was a quitter. It was because I was an overachiever. Right.
Right.
And, you have to look at your reasons for quitting. If you look back at something, it was kind of hard for me to answer that question because I don't think I've quit anything in such a long time. I mean, some people will say, oh, well, you just sold your blog. Didn't you just quit that? And technically, yeah, I guess I did. But to me, it's more of a pivot.
Right.
And so, when you think about, oh, well, I just quit that and I wish I hadn't, you have to think about, what is the reason behind why I think I quit that, or why did I quit that? is it because I'm a quitter, or is it because there were circumstances out of my control and I overextended myself? Quitting isn't always a bad thing.
No, it's not. And then I think also sometimes it's about perspective. It's about how you looked at it. Like you said, you can look at it yourself as a quitter, or you can just look at it as you were overextending yourself and being an overachiever. But kind of how you choose to frame it, I guess, is how it can affect your mindset.
Yeah. So here's a good one. A badass doesn't quit, a badass pivots. I just made that up. Write it down.
I like it. All right. So you've told us that you're a mom and you're a business owner. Do you have mom guilt? And if so, how do you deal with it?
I do not have mom guilt. And I love this question because, while I follow a low info diet, like I'm not immune, I see the mom guilt posts and things like that. And here's the thing, like I only have one kid, so I only have one person to worry about, like whether or not I should feel guilty. And I feel like we live in this world where everyone expects everything from me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you should be doing this. You should be doing that. But here's the thing, like every child is different and every child-parent relationship is different. And, my kid, her name's Chelsea. She's 5 years old. She is also a badass. And, she is so badass that she tells me I'm an awesome mom. And so that is what I choose to believe. And that is what I tell myself. I'm an awesome mom. Chelsea thinks I'm an awesome mom. And so therefore I am.
That's so cool. And it sounds like, I don't know, but it just sounds like you're raising her kind of like your mom raised you, like saying stuff to let her know she's capable of accomplishing what she wants to.
Right. So she's 5. She's going to be eligible for public school soon. And, I worry about the way that I've raised her. Obviously, we hit the road. She's been to so many places. She's witnessed so many different types of culture, even within the U.S. And I have I'm a very confident person, and she's very confident for, how old she is.
Mm-hmm.
And I do worry about, what the school system will do to her, because I do have a master's degree. I was actually going to be a principal. Like I'm certified to teach and administer at any level in the state of Florida. My certification, I think, expires in the next couple weeks. That's why I was laughing earlier. But yeah, I worry that, her spirit might get crushed in the public school system. I know how it is, but I just have to have faith that I've raised her to be, strong and speak up for herself and, express her emotions as she can, as she's capable of expressing. Like I know my mother, she's old school. And so when Chelsea was about 3, I learned to read when I was 3. So when my daughter was 3, my mother thought she would know how to read. And it's laughable because my daughter's 5 and still doesn't know her, all her ABCs. She can't identify the letters. And she said, well, you could read. And I said, well, she's not me. She's her own person. And it's just, I was telling my mom, like, I'm raising my daughter. Like she already has all the intelligence she's going to have. She was born with it. But I'm trying to, like, I guess, stoke her emotional intelligence. That's something not everyone learns. Everyone learns their ABCs in a first world country. It's just a fact, unless you have a severe disability, you are going to learn how to read and write and do basic math, right?
Yeah, school will provide that.
Right. But not everyone learns how to manage their emotions, how to express them, and how to control them. And that's what is the most important thing. That's what this podcast is all about, right? Like how to turn, how to stop feeling ordinary and start feeling badass. And not everyone gets to that level. And so that is what I'm most concerned about with my daughter. She's going to learn to read. She's going to learn to write. I was like insanely blessed to be given this child, with, I don't know what her abilities are, but we'll say average abilities, right? She was born, without any sort of disability. She is able, but not everyone is emotionally able, because that is, that is something you always have to work at. And so I'm trying to teach her that. And, that's why I don't have mom guilt, I guess,
Yeah.
because, I know I'm setting a firm foundation. And I know that because she butts heads with my husband. And she's like, you cannot tell me that. Like, no, Dad, no.
Right.
And right now, it bothers him, but I keep reminding him, like, you're not raising a child, you're raising a woman in 2020, right? Like, she's going to be a woman right now. She's going to be a woman in 10 years, 20, 30. What is the world going to look like? And how can we give her the best advantage? And that's, teaching her about her emotions. I
And
remember
how to use her voice.
Yes, I remember this was about a year and a half ago. So she was 3. And I remember she ran out, I told her she couldn't have something that she really wanted. And she ran outside crying. And I looked her in the eye and I said, this is called disappointment. You are very disappointed right now that you're not getting what you want. And, the next year we were at my brother's house, and it was the same type of situation, and she was crying, and she looked at my brother. She said, I'm just disappointed you're not giving me what I want. And he looked at me like, what? And I said, she's got to learn how to express herself and, and say what she means,
Right.
so that people can understand her. And,
awesome.
I think that's the greatest gift you can give your child. And it doesn't matter if you feed them organic, or, you take them on road trips, or, you have to work 2 jobs just to feed them. Like, as long as you let them express themselves, and you teach them the right words, and you try to model the best you can when you're upset, and you look them in the eye when you do all this, like, there's nothing to feel guilty about. And we're not all perfect, and we're not going to do this always. I don't do this always. I've definitely barked more than I've, purred, I guess you could say. But, all we can do is try. That's all.
Yep. And I think that, like, what you're saying is so important, because school, like, we put so much on school and our identity, and you may not be a straight A student, but that doesn't mean that you're not a badass, or it doesn't mean that you're not going to succeed in life. Like, your grades in school don't mean everything.
That is so true. And let me tell you, I was a straight A student, and I learned to read when I was 3, but I did not have a friend in the world, because I put so much identity into that. That is not attractive, right? Especially to a 10-year-old. Like, 10-year-olds don't care that you can read like crazy, and, you read the dictionary at night. They want to know if you can skip a rock, right? So it's not, if you're still clinging to those types of things and those memories, good or bad, like, I just invite you to tell yourself a new story that makes you feel better.
Yeah. So let's pivot and talk a little bit about your mindset. Tell me about your mindset and how it has led to your badassery.
Well, like I said, my mom wasn't perfect, but she really did believe in me. And I think that made all the difference. And, the same with that Mrs. Rice story about, happiness is a choice. Like, the second I accepted that as a fact was the second my life changed. And so, my mindset, one of my mantras, well, really my only mantra, is why not me? And, I feel like this helped me, I guess, learn the difference between, like, me and them, like, them being the people I wanted to be. If you're listening to this podcast and you think, oh, I wish I could be like them, like Marie and Liz, or, whoever the next guest is, saying something like, why not me? Or having some sort of mantra like that really teaches you that there's no difference between you and me.
Right.
People always say, like, my sister, and, people that get close to me, and they just, their biggest excuse to not be badass, I guess, is, well, it comes so easy to you, Liz. you're just born that way. And while, I did say like I feel slightly privileged, from my mother, but even my own sister doesn't say that. And there's only, they don't know my struggles and they don't know my demons. We've talked about them a little bit here, but everyone has them, including the person on stage that just exudes confidence, right? Oprah,
Yes.
Barack Obama, like Michelle Obama, all of these amazing figures that just, you just think they've got it together, right?
Yeah, and you're only seeing one
there's
little snippet of their life or one part of their life, but you didn't see everything that came before that.
right. And there's really no difference between you and them other than their choices. And so once I realized like happiness is a choice, everything in life is a choice. It just comes down to like, why not me? I just have to make the right decisions. And the right decision is always to choose yourself. Like I was saying earlier in my business, I became very selfish and that kind of like hurt my relationship. But I still don't look at choosing myself as a negative. It's a positive. It's gotten me to where I am today. I will always choose myself, because that's the difference between me and that's the difference. Let me think. That's like the difference between, I'm a big comedy fan. So that's the difference between like Kevin Hart, who is everywhere doing everything, and like the dude at the dinner table telling dad jokes that wishes he could be Kevin Hart.
Right.
Like the difference is, Kevin Hart thinks like, why not me? Why can't I go after that? And that's my mantra, and that's my mindset is like, why not me? There's no difference. We're all born equal, and the only thing that stops us are our choices. Aside from like, I do like know there is such thing as privilege, and I'm definitely privileged as a white woman, but like I also have made a lot of choices that were like, for the benefit of me, for me feeling good, for me chasing my dreams. And that the more I do that, the more badass I feel.
Yeah. So if you had not ever pursued your blog, even because you thought that it was causing problems in your marriage, what would that have felt like?
Like if I would have given up?
If you would have given up, if you would have said it was too hard, it was going to ruin your marriage, the tech was too hard, if you just would have given up, what would that have felt like?
Not good, baby. Not good. Like just the thought of it. And that's why I never gave up. Like even there were a few times where I looked at my husband in the face and I said, do you want me to quit? I will do it for you because I like being married more than I like being a business owner. And he said, I would never do that to you. Like that, I know that would be devastating to you because I know you believe in it and you believe in yourself so much. And I wouldn't want you to start to resent me. And he's right. I would have resented him. So it would have felt, if I would have given up just from tech issues, I would just feel stupid. I would always wonder like, what if, right? I'd keep seeing those stories of, I'm a 7-figure blogger, or I'm a copywriter making 6 figures a year, stress-free. I would still see those things and still feel bad. And then, on the other hand, if I would have given up for my husband, I probably would have felt a lot of resentment and we probably would have split anyway.
Right. Here's my favorite is that you said, if I would have given up, then I would have felt stupid. And I love that because a lot of times actually people give up because they do feel stupid. Like when they're working on the tech stuff and like they don't get it, it doesn't make sense to them. They're like, I'm stupid, I don't got this. But I think that's the difference between a badass or not. Like it's not easy for most people, but people persevere through that and don't give up regardless of if they feel stupid,
Right. I can feel stupid doing something or I can feel stupid because I didn't do something.
Right.
Which one? They both feel stupid. So I'm going to pick the one that's productive.
Yes.
And it's like, okay. It's like if you're trying to lose weight, you're uncomfortable with all this weight. And your excuse is, well, working working out is hard or eating right is hard. It's like, okay, well, being overweight is also hard. So which one are you going to choose?
Yeah. So, Liz, I know that you've come across hard times. How do you get inspired and stay motivated?
Uh, Ladies, so for me, it's like inspiration comes from within. Like you cannot stay motivated if the motivation isn't within you. If you don't have a why, like WHY, if you don't have a reason to be doing something. My reason is like I'm just naturally motivated by like setting and achieving goals. And also like I'm on a mission right now to um you know, I just want to reach as many people as possible and teach them that they can live their one true happy life. They can reach their potential and they should. And so that comes a lot from within. When I'm feeling low, like when I'm feeling stupid, when I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling like I bit off more than I can chew, when I'm feeling like maybe I should quit this because my daughter needs me, or, you know, my husband, my poor husband, I love him. I love you, Ed. I know you're not listening, but I just want to declare it to the world. You know, if I don't have that reason, if I don't have that motivation from within, that self-love that I've been talking about this whole time, like you're always going to be watching YouTube TED Talks. So for me, it's like inspiration comes from within. You've got to love yourself, good, bad, ugly. Like whenever you've got to love yourself even when you feel stupid. And that's the difference, like I just said, like between Kevin Hart and that guy that tells jokes at the dinner table. And it all just comes back to that, loving on yourself. And my biggest tip, like if you think, oh, well, that's easy for you to say, Liz, you can start loving yourself. This is so easy, but also so hard. You've got to start receiving compliments. I know as a woman, it is so hard. Like, oh, hey girl, I love that top. Oh, thanks. I got it for $2 at Goodwill. Like you can just say thank you.
Right.
You don't have to clarify it with saying that it's cheap or it's used or it's not as good as they think, oh, actually it's from Walmart. Like that is you saying, like to me, that is you saying like it's not as good as you think it is. Like I'm pulling one over on you. You think I look good, but actually I'm wearing Walmart brand or Goodwill. And so like when you start, this is my number one tip. So write it down. If you just start receiving compliments, if someone says something nice to you, your husband, your child, somebody on the street, just walks by and says like, hey, I like that hat or whatever, your coworker, I know we're doing Zoom chats right now. Somebody on a Zoom chat says like, hey, you've got a really pretty name. Like just say thank you. And you will be so surprised and honestly like delighted at how good it makes you feel when you don't discount it. And if this seems like even too uncomfortable for you right now, start giving compliments. Whenever you see someone, I know we're not traveling around a lot right now, but if you go to the store, you see your husband like, oh, I like those jeans on you, or wow, lady in the gas station, like that color blue looks really lovely. That's going to help you start giving, and that will probably open you up to receiving. Because the more we give, the more we can receive, right?
Right. And I think it's so important to be able to receive compliments, like you said. It's like think of yourself when you're giving a compliment, are you being serious? Are you being purposeful about it? Chances are you are.
Right.
So same thing when you're receiving one, like take it to heart.
Right. It is a gift someone is giving you. And if you say something, even if it's offhand, I feel like it's so ingrained in a lot of us, right? Like, oh, I love your haircut. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I like it. You can just say thank you. And,
Right.
just go with me, try it for 24 hours. And if you are in an environment where, you don't feel like you even get compliments, just, ask your partner, ask your kid, ask, whoever, like, hey, I'm really trying to love myself better. Can you just, I'm going to stand here. Can you give me a compliment? And it might be like nauseous. It might make you nauseous. But if you start doing it every day, this is something I started doing when I was about 18. And now, like, if someone tells me I look good, I literally say, like, I know, right? Or something like that. I was at a conference and someone was like, dang, Liz, you look so hot. And I like literally like twirled like a supermodel. And,
so good.
all of that can be yours, but you have to be open to receiving like the beautiful things that come your way. If you're closed off,
yes,
they won't come your way. So the more you give the compliments, to your kid, to your spouse, whoever, the lady in the gas station with the blue shirt, she looks so good, right? Tell her. The more you give, the more, when someone compliments you back, the more it's going to feel like so amazing. And you're going to feel so much self-love that, over time, that inspiration truly will come from within. You will be motivated just by your own desires and dreams. And you need YouTube or TED Talks anymore.
Okay, O2Bers, you heard it here first. The next 24 hours, make sure that you're giving compliments and soaking them in. So let's pivot and talk about badass advice, and this will be more rapid fire.
Sure.
What was your turning point for accomplishing your goals and becoming a badass?
My turning point, really, I feel like I've probably always been a badass underneath, but really it was when I started my blog and I realized just how much happiness it brought me. And there was just no stopping me.
Do you have a morning or an evening routine that you can share with us?
Oh my gosh, I so wish. You guys, I live in 200 square feet. It is so hard. I really am trying though. Lately, I'm actually currently doing a detox. And so I'm doing a morning routine where I get up at 7 a.m. Like Tony Robbins says, just 5 minutes. And I just spend, 5 to 10 minutes just laying there before anybody else gets up. And then, I eat breakfast and then I'm always to work around 9 a.m. And as far as work goes, I know a lot of us are working from home. I always get dressed. Like right now for this podcast interview, I'm at home. I'm sitting in an RV crooked in my best friend from high school's yard. Like there's no reason for me not to be wearing sweatpants, except that I have to have that routine in order to be productive. So I'm wearing nice jeans. I've got a lovely tank top on. It's blue and it's from the Goodwill. And I've got a headband on. I did my hair. I'm wearing earrings. So that's a routine that I do every weekday, I guess you could say, is I get dressed for work. And in the evening, I change so that I'm no longer in work mode. Even though I work from home and I literally don't even have a bedroom. Like I'm in a box on wheels.
Can you talk about that? Like, how
Yeah,
does that
sure,
shift help you?
Yeah. So, you mean as far as, like changing in and out of work clothes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is supposed to be rapid fire, so I'll talk really fast, right? Sorry for those of you listening in 2x speed. So I live in an RV, right? I don't have an office. I don't even have a bedroom door. I have a daughter. She sleeps in the cab over the driver's seat. And I work at the dinette, which is also the kitchen table, which is also the kitchen counter, and our couch. It's the only seating other than the driver's seat or the bed. So I have to have that mental shift, right? If I just got up and I started working in my pajamas, I would not be very productive. I would still be in sleep mode. And then also on the same tip as where I move out of my work clothes and put on pajamas or put on sweatpants or whatever, because I'm all in one space, if I didn't change out of my work clothes, I would always be in work mode. I would pack up everything for dinner, and then I would, set up the laptop again and, I just got to do one or two more things. But it's an actual like physical, I guess, like trigger response when I'm in different clothes to be in like a different mode, right? Like when you're in the office, you're, office Susie or office Marie, office Liz. And then when you're at home, you're yourself. And so because I don't technically have an office or even a room to go to, I use that physical trigger to like change my mindset throughout the day.
Thank you for violating rapid fire. I just think that that's something that we all need to hear. So I asked you to dive in.
I am a badass rebel. I will violate many other rules.
Good. So what's one thing you've learned from a woman in your life?
One thing I've learned from a woman in my life is that you are truly powerful. I wish other women knew just how powerful they are. I mean, we've all heard the term like happy wife, happy life, but it's really, it goes beyond that. You don't have to wait for permission. Like, you have the power and the permission in yourself. And I wish more women were taught to love thyself, like love yourself, instead of love thy neighbor. And that's something that I learned from, not specifically those words, but about like the power and giving yourself permission. It was something like I've always known that. My mom, she did a lot of that, but someone recently is a lady named Tarzan K. If you guys are really into online business, I learned that from her, or recently relearned, to give yourself permission. You have everything in you. So you don't need to wait.
So how often do you read, and can you recommend a book and share why?
Oh gosh, like I said, I follow a low info diet, so I don't actually read too much. Especially I just started this new business, so I'm super busy. So if I do read, I like to read business books, but the book I recommend the most is You Are a Badass at Making Money. And I don't care if you're, trying to build a business, or, your work at home, your stay at home mom. I think every woman should read this. It really taught me a lot about the money blocks I was having. I was building my business. I was doing all the things, right? I've launched something like 7 digital products in the last 3 years, but I wasn't making the money I wanted. Or if I made a lot of money, I spent it right away and it was totally gone. And I was so confused. And it really taught me that I actually was suffering from something called like Prince Charming syndrome, I think it's called. And it's basically, I didn't want to make more money than my husband. My mom always taught me to be independent, but she also taught me that I should not marry anyone that's poor, because that's what she did. And that was the biggest mistake of her life. And so I needed to marry rich, which I married a military guy, not necessarily rich, but not broke. And so, I had to realize that, wow, that was a really mental block for me. Like, and reading that, even if you're not building your business, even if your husband makes all the money, it's going to help you understand how you work and what your relationship with money is, so that, you can save better, spend better, earn more if that's your goal. Or even just, if you are married and your husband makes all the money, just to be able to talk from, like I said, like from that source of power, and know yourself and where you're coming from, and be able to, debate your point better. Highly recommend that. You Are a Badass at Making Money. I think it's by a lady named Jen Sincero.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I will put that in the show notes. So
awesome.
Let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want, and then share how the audience can connect with you.
Yeah, so I guess it all just comes back to that self-love. I highly recommend doing that receiving compliments thing. I know it seems silly, but I know that if you really look at yourself and you think about the last few times you were complimented, did you say thank you, or did you say like something else to kind of negate the compliment? So I really would, that's my biggest tip, is just to start receiving compliments and giving them, and moving even more towards self-love, because that's when you truly, like, you're already a badass, but you can't see that if you don't, have that self-love. So that's my biggest tip. And people can find me. We'll link to it in the show notes, but you can sign up for my newsletter. Like I said, I am a simple launch strategist, so I teach people how to use email basically to make money. But, I send out tips on sales, strategy, online business, and confidence, all these things we've been talking about. Well, I know I talked a ton. But yeah, my email list is the best way to get a hold of me. Like I said, I am on Facebook and all those things, but I follow a really low info diet, but I take care of my email subscribers. So if you want to get to know me better, definitely sign up in the show notes.
And what's your website?
Oh, and my website is lizwilcox.com.
Okay, awesome. Liz, you have been a total badass and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And I am so excited to get to know more badasses through you.
Yeah, thank you. And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, own it and get after it.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.